Well, hello, hyperspace. My name is Davontos, and it's time to get hyped because in this video, we're actually going to cover up I guess you can call it a technique that a lot of players are doing in Overwatch, and it's actually hurting your team a lot more than you think. So, it's a very, very common thing that a lot of players do in both quick play and competitive, and there's a very simple way to stop this. So let's get right into this and find out just what kind of technique this thing really is. Okay, so we've all been through this, right? Let's use Hanamura for example, right? You guys are attacking, you got a pretty decent team, not the best team, not the worst team, but it can manage. You know, you got, let's say, like a Reinhardt and a McCree. You guys got, let's say, like a Farah, and then you got a Lucio to help you guys push forward, and then maybe you guys got a 76 and a Genji, right? Not the best, but it can work. So you guys got a pretty decent team. And then the enemies too. The enemies got a pretty decent defense. Not the best defense, but you can manage to pass through if you push hard enough. So here's where the problem comes in. You guys attack point A, and like this usually happens in Hanamura. You guys got like an enemy Reinhardt who's blocking the main gate in Hanamura, and you guys just start pummeling at Reinhardt's shield as you should. That's good, that's what you're supposed to do. You know, every time you see Reinhardt's shield, shoot it. A Reinhardt without a shield is a very vulnerable Reinhardt. So they got Narissa too. So once Reinhardt's shield is destroyed, Narissa plops down her barrier, and it's the same thing again. You guys start shooting at Narissa's barrier, then Narissa's barrier gets destroyed, and Reinhardt pops back up, and it just continues over and over and over. That's a huge problem in Overwatch because you're basically just letting the old enemies fill up their ultimates. Because they're getting shots on you, you're not getting shots on them, and your ultimate does not fill up fast enough if you're shooting barriers or turrets. So that's one big mistake. But let's say, for example, you guys managed to take out Reinhardt's barrier and take out Arissa's barrier, and they don't have their barriers set to deploy yet, so you guys push forward. And you push forward and you capture point A, and you capture point A really quickly, so it gives you, I don't know, like maybe 7-8 minutes to capture point B. That's insane. You guys could do this, right? Well, here's where the problem starts coming in. A lot of times when you have enough time to capture the second point, the team doesn't capture the second point. And there's a way around this. I mean, you can go to just maybe the enemy's defenses are too good, which can happen. I mean, enemies can just be straight up better players than you and I, and they can easily just, you know, outplay us, which is fine. But even if the enemies aren't that good and your team aren't that good, so you're basically on par, you know, you guys are pretty mediocre, average, what do you want to call it? Both of you, you're not the best, not the worst, you're pretty average. Your team doesn't attack. You have 8 minutes to capture the objective, and instead of you guys grouping up or putting on mics, and I'm not saying you guys, I'm just saying like Overwatch players in general. Instead of like the Overwatch players putting on mics and grouping up and saying, you know, let's push through this side, let's push through that side, they're just going in one at a time, and the enemies are just easily picking you off because they're basically just sitting at their spawn. They have their defenses up, and you guys gotta march into their spawn and take them out of their defenses so you guys can capture the point. But they don't. They just go in one at a time, and you may think that you're, you know, saving your ultimate to use it at the very end, but you gotta remember, the enemies are getting their ultimate much faster than you guys are because they're landing all the shots, which is why they keep taking you out. And the team waits for literally the last 30 seconds when you actually hear Athena says 30 seconds remaining. When Athena says that, and then suddenly your team just goes bananas. They just go insane. They spam their ultimates. They just push in there for some reason. They had 7 minutes to do this, but they always wait for the last 30 seconds. And they just push in there. They spam their ultimates, and then like 80-90% of the time, the enemies have been saving their ultimates from the start, from killing all of you guys in the very beginning, so by the time you let out your ultimate, the enemies already have their ultimates to counter. And it doesn't matter what ultimate you have, there's always another ultimate to counter. Let's say Zarya's gravity ball, she shoots the gravity ball at point B, it sucks everybody up, and then let's say Farah flies and rains Justin from above. Justice is utterly useless if Zenyatta has his ultimate and happens to activate Transcendence in that gravity ball. And even so, a nano-boosted Farah can actually overpower Transcendence with her Justice. So, I don't know, let's say maybe you have a gravity ball, everybody gets sucked in, Farah gets nano-boosted and rains Justice, and then everybody dies. Well, then here comes Mercy and revives everybody else. So it's like, no matter what you do, an ultimate will always have a counter. And I feel it, I kind of say it's literally a waste of time to just wait for the last 30 seconds to push forward and capture a point. And I've always wondered, like, why do players do this? I mean, they either spam group up with me, and just continue spamming it, but nobody listens until the last 30 seconds, and then they listen, and then they group up with that person. Like, why do players do that? I never really understood that. I mean, I play a lot of D.Va, D.Va's my main, and being D.Va, being the tank, I'm usually in the front lines or pulling off like minor flanks just to get behind the enemy, and because I'm in the front lines, obviously I will know who's by my side. Most of the time, when it's actually capture points, I find myself by myself, and I see a lot of the other people who should be by my side, like the Reinhardts and the McCrees, and sometimes the soldiers. They're, I don't know, maybe Reinhardt's trying to flank by himself, and then maybe soldiers, I don't know, trying to shoot the enemies from way back as spawn, and then McCree, this happens a lot with McCree players, they literally just hide in the corner because they have High Noon ready. They literally just hide in the corner and wait for the perfect opportunity to use High Noon. And I never really understood why, because I mean, you're obviously going to get more High Noons the more you continue playing Overwatch. You know, get the hit markers, get the kills, you get High Noon. You don't really have to save that one High Noon for that perfect moment. So, it actually got me thinking, well, first off, why do Overwatch players do that? I never really understood why. Maybe some of you guys can help me out, like, why do Overwatch players literally wait for the last 30 seconds? But it also got me wondering, there's a simple way to work around this. There are actually two simple ways to work around this. If you have bad teammates who just don't know what they're doing, let's say like a Roadhog's trying to sneak around like if he's a Sombra, and you see that your teammates just keep on dying, a simple way to work around it, accept the defeat. You guys are going to lose if you have teammates like that. But you can stay in the game and still get the XP. Just play a healer. I mean, your team is always... I can't talk right now. Your team is always dying. They keep getting damaged because they're not playing the role correctly. So play as a healer and get free points for healing those teammates who keep dying. Or, you can actually put on your mic. I know a large majority of the Overwatch players have a mic because either your console came with a mic or if you have PC, most PC players who play competitive games have mics. You can boot up your mic and you can talk to the people, say, hey, you know, group up with me, let's try this technique, or let's try that technique, and, I mean, who cares if they're gonna start making fun of your accent, or start making fun of your voice, or start hating on you? I mean, you're never gonna see these people ever again. It's very rare that you would actually run into the same guy twice in a public lobby, but, I mean, hey, if you do, oh well, it happens, but if you don't, I mean, don't worry about it. You're never going to see these guys again. Who cares what they think? The thing is to get in Overwatch, have a good time, get your points, get your loot boxes, win your games, and leave, you know? So, put on your mics, communicate, try different techniques, and even if you don't have a mic, try to listen to that one person who seems like they know what they're doing. And I say this, let's say for example you got a Reinhardt who's trying to sneak around the map, and you actually get a Sombra who's trying to sneak around the map. If you hear Reinhardt say, group up with me, and you see like he's all the way at enemy spawn, you obviously just don't listen to that Reinhardt. But if Sombra is, you know, pulling off a sneaky approach, and you actually see she's succeeding, and then she says, my ultimate is ready, then you keep an eye on that Sombra, wait for the EMP, and work with her so you guys can pull off a victory. You don't really need mics in most of these situations. Yeah, a mic is really and highly preferred when you play Overwatch, but if you don't have one, you know, you can still have your character communicate with one another to pull off little victories here and there. But let's say you guys are working together, you guys got your mics booted up, you're working together, good communication, you guys are pulling off a solid victory, you're almost there. There's one thing you gotta do to avoid defeat in Overwatch, and this is something you have to do as an Overwatch player, as a gamer in general, and it's not to get angry. A lot of people nowadays take video games way too seriously, and they wind up getting angry, and when you get angry when you're playing video games, we all know you just lose focus. And I know you can say, hey, I gain focus when I get angry, but yeah, you gain focus, and you play better, but in a game like Overwatch, it's a team-based game. It's not all about your character, and it's not all about you. You have to back up your team, and your team has to back you up. Let's use Reinhardt, for example, right? You're playing as a Reinhardt. You're a pro Reinhardt. Hell, you could be the best Reinhardt in the world. You're literally the best Reinhardt to ever walk this planet. And you keep getting picked off by this Widowmaker. You're getting frustrated, and you say to yourself, man, I'ma kill that Widowmaker, son. I hate that bitch. So then you just snap. You abandon your team, you go find that Widowmaker, and you just smash her to pieces with that hammer, and you get that kill. Well, what happens to your team when you're smashing that Widowmaker? No pun intended. your team literally gets slaughtered because they lost their defense, because their defense, which was yourself, wanted to smash that Widowmaker in a non-sexual way, and you knew you could have, because you're the best Reinhardt in the world. The only problem with that is your team was relying on the best Reinhardt in the world to back them up. You see what I mean here? So you really have to play your role, and you can't get tilted when you're playing Overwatch. Just keep calm. You know, everybody gets upset in these kind of situations, but keep calm and try your best to play your role. There's one more thing I want to cover about playing your role, and that's when to know to switch. Let's say, for example, you're using a Torbjorn, and you just can't get your turret up, and you keep on dying over and over again, regardless of what the mission is or what's happening in the map. If your character just keeps on dying over and over, then that means it's time to switch and try a different approach. If your defensive character like Bastion or Torbjorn isn't working, then try to play attacker like McCree or 76, and just mess around with different heroes and see what works best with the team, because your main isn't going to work in every map. Regardless of how good you are with your main, there will be situations where they just aren't enough. So you have to switch out and try a different approach. So if you like this video, punch that like button with a mighty force. You can follow me up on Twitter at DavontosMan. And as always, I'll see all of you in the next video. Have a nice day.